Yeah, just was going to say it's an honor to be in the Rose Bowl. Played a few games there, but never in the actual Rose Bowl. So just really fired up to go against the number one team in the country. See Mendoza in person, Heisman Trophy candidate, or winner, I should say, and heck of a quarterback and just a great staff. They do a great job. So looking forward to the opportunity.
All right, thanks, Coach. Let's start on the far right here today.
Yeah, what's the biggest thing you want the offense to carry over from the second half of that Oklahoma game?
Their resiliency. What they showed, is what we felt they've been capable of all year is when the chips are down, you got to be at your best, play to our standard, not the circumstances, and I thought, that was what they did. And, we've preached that for quite a while, or I have anyways, that, we got to play to our standard, in practice and in games, and when it's not perfect, that we don't, fall down to the circumstances and fall out of love with the game when all of a sudden you're down a couple touchdowns or something. And I just thought they played so hard, and Ty was, I thought, at his all-time best, in my opinion, just the way he was, his resiliency on the sideline, his mindset, just the things he was saying in between series. There just was a belief that, if I was down there playing with Ty, I would have believed, like, we're going to get this done. So I think that unwavering belief and just the guys with a really, really tough start, obviously, the football game, that they, knew they could move the football on these guys, had done it before, and just stuck to the plan.
Let's go to front left. Chase.
My question's similar to that one. I want to ask you more about Ty in the Oklahoma game. He obviously played better in the second half than the first half, but apart from just performance, did you also detect a different Ty in terms of the intangibles, confidence, poise, command, things like that in the second half versus the first half? And if so, where do you think that might have come from?
I did for sure. And I think, as far as where it came from, I think that there was a mindset going into the game that was embedded in Ty. And I think that it was one that you saw in the Georgia game earlier in the year and things like that, where there was a little bit of the just let it rip mentality, not worrying so much about, what's going on around him or, how this could affect anything else other than just playing, and obviously for a 22-year-old young man, that's a lot of pressure. And, I think he did a good job of just stay in love with the process, be in the game plan, be ready for the game, and let it keep building and adjust as you go in the game and get ready to make the play. And I just think he was in that moment. He was in the zone as far as just staying locked into the game. And I really felt like he knew that we were going to make a play, and that, we got a couple man coverage looks that we had been wanting, that we won on, and was, Lottie got it all sparked when he hit that third down on a man opportunity. And I just felt like Ty was going to be ready for that moment. That's how I felt talking to him on the headset, was just that if we got that moment, he was going to make the throw and we were going to make the catch. And, we did, and we kept capitalizing on those moments.
Let's go to Charlie on the far right side.
With Indiana, they're kind of at the top nationally in just about every statistic you look at.
Yep.
When you watch them on film, kind of what jumps out immediately?
Really disciplined defense. They play very disciplined. They're exactly where they're supposed to be. They execute their system at a really, really high level. They tackle really well. And I think one thing I see that we've been challenging our guys on, they defeat blocks. And I wish I could tell you something way more sexy than that, but it's like they're really good at the little stuff, and that's what you see, in good defenses, is teams that defeat blocks, run to the football, tackle well, force turnovers. They do all the little things really, really well, and that's what we got to be ready for. Because you'll see plenty of plays on film where it's like this play is developing, it's got a shot, it looks like it's going to be well executed, and then they just simply defeat the block, and they win at the point of attack. And so, just a good smash mouth team that you can tell are very well coached.
Let's go to Joe right in the middle of the room there.
Coach, I'd like to ask you about a specific play from that Oklahoma game in the fourth quarter. You're up 7, and Ty hits a 24-yarder to Jeremy Bernard down. It basically sets up the Daniel Hill final touchdown. Just what was your perspective on the play that Jeremy made with that reception, Ty's confidence to deliver the ball, and just kind of anything that you noticed in particular about that play and what it did for the team?
Well, the first thing I think of is just exactly what you said, the confidence of him to throw the football. And Ty had a couple different options on that play. He didn't have to take that throw to Jeremy. So the fact that he chose to do that and put the ball down the field and play like that versus man coverage was, something that I thought was, just a good sign of things to come, that those two are on the same page, and the fact that he didn't overshoot the ball. And, Germ, obviously, he underthrew it probably obviously more than he intended, but, that Germ would make the play for him. And then the other part would just really, I thought, showed how in tune to the football game Ty was. That was their backup corner. We had talked about replacement players getting in there, and, he went right at him. And so I just thought it, showed a lot of savvy on Ty's part.
Go third row on the right, Mike.
Just what have these last couple of weeks been like for you with some of the shuffling, on the offensive staff, and just what does it mean to you to have Nick get the opportunity at Michigan State?
Oh man, Nick's much more than a coworker. He's a dear friend. I mean that. He's just an absolute stud. So, in this profession, you celebrate the wins for the good guys, and Nick's definitely one of them. So I think, for him, just being able to go take that next step. Nick has always been really, really good at building, and I think that's what you see with great coaches is guys that they just take steps. They just keep they develop. They stop somewhere. They're with people, they grow, and they become even better coaches. And I think that, for Coach Fitzgerald, he got a great one. So as far as for the staff, there's certainly some complications that go with those things. I would say, again, not to over-compliment Nick, but none of those complications have ever come from Nick. He has just been a total stud. If there's somebody that's up in the office as much as me, it's Nick, and he's always right there, to talk about whatever we're going through. So he's been great, and I think, his unwavering support, and just even from the beginning when he first told me what was going on, one of the first things he said is, I'm here to the end, Grubb. Like, I'm not taking the job until we go win this thing. So, and that was like statement number one. And it just says a lot about his character, kind of person he is. So super excited for him.
Let's go to the far left side of the room to Will.
Coach DeBoer said going into last game that he wanted you guys on the offense to add to your identity in the running game. That's a really good defense that you guys beat against Oklahoma, and then another really good one that you're going to face in the Rose Bowl. How do you think you guys can add to your identity in the running game in the Rose Bowl?
Got to get started earlier. We got to stop doing this first quarter shenanigans, waiting to get the run game going until the second and third quarter. We're capable of doing it earlier in the game. We got good enough players. The scheme's there. We just got to execute earlier in the football game. I didn't think, that's been our problem as of late. A couple games where we've gotten off to a slow start. That has not been the case all year, but some critical games where I just didn't feel like we were ready for the physical strain early on. And the guys know that. They're up for the challenge. And I think we'll see a different football team in the first quarter at the Rose Bowl.
Let's go to Blake on the back right.
Yeah, what kind of impression have the early enrollees made for you this week in practice, specifically, maybe Jet at quarterback?
None really yet. Great guys. They really honestly haven't done anything yet. They've been out running around. I know Sidarian's been doing an awesome job over on the scout team for the defense, which is really cool. I know we got a couple of the young defensive players over with us, so I'm actually getting a better look at those guys than the offensive guys. And Jet played a little bit of catch last night. He really just got here, and so did Mac. So nothing yet, but just excited. It's kind of really a cool entry point for these guys into the program here at Alabama. Is just we're on a playoff run. We're going to the Rose Bowl. I think in their mind, I would think this is everything they signed up for. Is this is what they want it to look like when they're in those seats.
Okay, we do have time for one last question
Yep.
from the Zoom. It'll be from Katie Wyndham. Katie, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hey coach, just what did you like about Ty's decision making against Oklahoma and really the whole offense and taking care of the ball, and how important is that going to be against an Indiana defense that's been pretty tough to score on this year?
Yeah, the turnover margin obviously was something that we harped on. That was we felt like that was the reason we lost the game the first time to Oklahoma, and so it was a huge point of emphasis for us. And honestly, I still didn't think we did a good enough job. The ball was on the ground a couple times that it shouldn't have been. And so, we just always say there's blood in the water when people see that. So obviously Indiana's watching that. They're good at getting the ball out. So we're putting a ton of emphasis on that as usual at practice. And so for us right now, I think that when you play tight football games in the playoffs and good defenses like this, we got to take care of the ball. We got to be careful with our decision making, and anybody that touches the football, we just tell them to imagine that's Old State Alabama handing them the ball, so they got to take care of that thing.
All right, thank you, Coach.
You bet.